From the PEP Radio Newsroom, this is the daily news for July 22nd, 2026. These are the stories we are covering at this hour. President Donald Trump has approved an agreement with Saudi Arabia that could potentially provide the kingdom with uranium enrichment capability for its civilian nuclear program, according to two people familiar with the matter. The people who were not authorized to comment publicly just yet about the yet to be formally announced decision said the agreement is expected to be announced publicly as early as Wednesday. The deal is expected to last 30 years and is also expected to involve U.S. firms in developing the program. The deal could allow for the building of a uranium enrichment facility in Saudi Arabia following a joint U.S.-Saudi study. But the deal, which is expected to be submitted to Congress for review, could face headwinds among lawmakers who fear that helping the Saudis fulfill their long-standing desire to enrich their own uranium would open new rounds of nuclear proliferation and competition. Saudi Arabia is a member state of the International Atomic Energy Agency, a Vienna-based agency which promotes peaceful nuclear work, but also inspects nations to ensure they don't have clandestine atomic weapons programs. In other news, the new commander-in-chief of the Ukrainian military forged his reputation as a daring and determined fighter in the early days of the country's battle against Russia, then spent a decade in combat assignments while steadily rising through the ranks. Major General Mikhailo Drapati was named to the post Tuesday after President Volodymyr Zelensky fired General Oleksandr Syrsky following days of mass protests in Kyiv and other cities. Demonstrators demanded his removal and the reinstatement of former Defense Minister Mikhailo Fedorov, who was seen as a driver of military modernization. Protesters said Syrsky embodied the Army's old Soviet-style command culture. In a Facebook post, Drapati thanked Syrsky for his work strengthening the military. "I grew up in it," he said, referring to the Army. "I will work responsibly, with focus, and with respect for the people defending our state today." Turning to news here in the United States, the Trump administration on Tuesday said it was deferring more than $1 billion in Medicaid payments to Minnesota and California because of suspected fraud and noncompliance, the latest in a series of punitive steps that is linked to allegations of fraud in mostly Democratic-led states. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. said the new actions, which come after previously announced Medicaid funding deferrals in those states, are part of the administration's strategy to stop the fraud before it happens, rather than claw back problematic spending after bad actors are prosecuted, as previous administrations had done. "We have a duty to stop the payments, demand answers, and then follow the evidence wherever it leads," Kennedy told a news conference. The tactic is part of the administration's sweeping campaign to show it's cracking down on fraud and saving taxpayers money when rising healthcare costs and other economic stressors have made affordability a top voter concern in November's midterm elections. And finally, U.S. Representative Andy Biggs, a fierce ally of President Donald Trump and former head of the House Freedom Caucus, won the Republican nomination for Arizona governor on Tuesday. Biggs overwhelmingly defeated fellow U.S. Representative David Schweikert in the primary and will face Democratic Governor Katie Hobbs in what could be one of the closest governor races in November. By choosing Biggs, who supported Trump's failed attempt to block certification of his 2020 election loss, Republican voters risk nominating another conservative warrior who excites the party base but fails to win a general election by turning off independents. Although Republicans once dominated Arizona, Democrats now hold both U.S. Senate seats and the top 3 state offices. Schweikert argued during the campaign that Biggs would continue a decade of Republican backsliding. However, he struggled to raise money and did not even return to Arizona for Election Day, remaining in Washington as the House passed a government funding bill. That's the news at this hour. PEP Radio is available on the Live 365 app, the homepage at paequality.com, Roku, Alexa, and wherever you find streaming radio. Up next, we have Meadville area weather forecast here on PEP Radio.